Hi there, and welcome to another one of my classic reviews, where I pick one of my all-time favourite movies, give it a rewatch, and then come review it. In this video I'm going to talk about Sherlock Jr., which is a Buster Keaton silent comedy, and one of my all-time favourite comedies. It always gets a laugh from me, it always charms me, it's perfectly brilliant in its sweethearted nature, and I just adore it. So, the first thing to say about Sherlock Jr. is that this is clearly a silent comedy, so it relies very much on visual comedy. And Buster Keaton was a director who didn't like to use intertitles, and so Buster Keaton, as also the lead actor, really has to do a lot of physical work in this film, and the whole film is so physical. His mannerisms, the way he walks, the way that he just stands around gets a laugh in this film. He always makes sure that even in perfunctory moments of plot where he's just walking around, he'll trip up in a funny way. He's able to do so many stunts that are over the top and ridiculous. He manages to constantly perform in an incredibly difficult manner, and it's so skillfully done. Bear in mind this is done with very little in the way of safety. This is made in the 1920s after all. It's so daring and so risky, and it's so amazing just how he manages to clumsily do so much in this film. Sherlock Jr. is almost the pinnacle of Buster Keaton's physical comedy career. There's a big chase scene in the film, reminiscent almost of the chase scene he has in The General, which is his other masterpiece that I've already reviewed on this channel. And Sherlock Jr. is one of those films that just has so much physicality on screen and so much visual humour. I mean, it's not just that the actors are physical and that they're having to perform in over-the-top exaggerated comedic manners. It's also other visual gags, like we're introduced to the main character who's a detective wannabe, and that is set up perfectly when we see him with How to Be a Detective book. He has a fake moustache and he's got a large magnifying glass. Now obviously that's both a very comedic setup and also a very funny setup, and from then on the film embarks on a stream of gags that all work together perfectly well. Each gag builds on the last, and it's one of those films that just paced very well. It's short and it's sweet, it's only 45 minutes, but somehow it manages to keep its narrative going, and it has a lot of momentum behind it. It has a full plot, a full narrative. It even has time to become an exaggerated dream sequence. While I wouldn't say Sherlock Jr. is a massively complex movie, it isn't just a purely simple ABC comedy. It plays with film and fiction. Obviously the whole thing is a parody kind of detective fiction and the detective genre, which is very popular in the 1920s. I mean, the title itself is a reference to Sherlock Holmes, but the film also plays with the nature of film itself. Sherlock Jr. is an incredibly cinematic film, and its jokes would only work because of what cinema provides. When Buster Keaton's character enters a dream sequence, he literally enters a film within a film. So the film within a film, which is a metaphor for the reality of the film, becomes the reality that we watch, and so we see Buster Keaton's character embark on this metaphorical journey, which is represented also by the literal journey outside. When Buster Keaton first enters the film, there's a very great gag involving him being stood on the screen and screen transitions and him constantly having to change direction and getting confused and things happening to him, loads of accidents, which is basically just a fantastic use of jump cuts, a fantastic use of the medium. But then the film's gags become very much playing with what cinema is, beyond just the fact that it's a film within a film. Like, we have things that would only work in cinema and that you couldn't produce this joke outside of a film. We have mirrors that turn out to be doorways, we have safes that turn out to be doors, we have Buster Keaton jump through a window and suddenly change clothes. There's other sections too, we have him jump through a person and through a wall, and even when the film attempts to explain that joke, it still keeps it incredibly illogical. Everything about the film is surreal, and that's something that cinema provides that is difficult to do without physically showing it and without editing and without these techniques that cinema provides. Buster Keaton knows how to mine a joke using cinema's own tools, and so throughout Sherlock Jr. he pushes what cinema could be and can be to get his jokes. It's a very funny film and it's very lighthearted. I mean, Buster Keaton's lead character is, like all his characters, a bit of a tragic loser, someone who manages to only seem to get through life with luck and skill. In fact, Buster Keaton manages to perfectly play someone who's meek and quiet, doesn't really know how to fit in, and yet he always manages to leave his films happy. He manages to get his little hero to succeed, to get what they want. And whilst these films are almost always romantic, the way the character is shy and fumbling and very, very awkward is just really endearing and sweet, and we always want him to get the girl. And Sherlock Jr. just has a very sweet love story at its core. Sherlock Jr. is just one of those classic comedies. It works, it's funny, it's delightful, it has loads of things that make it really cinematic and really, really clever, but it's also just a very enjoyable, shallow watch that anyone can just enjoy. I think Sherlock Jr. holds up as a classic of its era, and a classic to this day. It's still rewatchable, even though it's been almost a century since it was released. It's one of Buster Keaton's classic films, and one of the earliest and best silent comedies. Sherlock Jr. is a masterpiece, and I recommend it to anyone who wants a good time. So that's what I think of Sherlock Jr. Have you seen this film? I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have, so please leave me a comment. If you like this review, please give it a like. If you want to hear more of my reviews, you can subscribe. If you want to read more of my reviews, you can follow me on Letterboxd or Twitter, links in the description, and thank you for watching.